Ms. Janet Ang.
Mr. Speaker, Madam Deputy Speaker, I guess both are there. Thank you for the opportunity to join in this debate. Singapore's women development has come a long way. More than 75% of women are in the workforce. More than 50% of university graduates are women. 30% of parliamentarians are women. 13% of CEOs are women, and 20% of directors on boards are women. Education, coupled with progressive and women-friendly policies and structures put in place over the years, have enabled women in Singapore to enter and excel in the workforce as both employees and business owners, and contribute to our nation's growth. We stand on the shoulders of Singaporean women who were trailblazers of their time, and Singapore men who were enlightened and humbled to act on the wisdom that women are first among equals alongside themselves. Last year, as part of celebrating SG Women, Singapore Business Federation did a research study around the issue of uplifting women in the workforce, investing in the success of women in Singapore. The study concluded that in a resource-scarce country like Singapore, it is a business imperative to mobilize all available talents, male or female, in order to achieve more robust, sustainable, and balanced long-term economic growth. Now, the paper makes 12 recommendations at the company, ecosystem, national, and individual level to help create a more inclusive workforce, advance women empowerment in the workplace, and bolster women entrepreneurs. SBF is heartened to see the industry's views have been taken on board in the white paper. Women as a category is not monolithic, homogeneous whole, and hence policies need to address the experiences of multiple subgroups, for example, single women, single moms, vulnerable groups of women, women as caregivers, senior women in our aging society. The white paper certainly reflects this reality, and that the government has listened hard and intently to the challenges and aspirations of our women across generations. So kudos and thank you to everyone involved with the SG Women conversations and this white paper. For my speech, I will focus my discussion primarily on making the workplace work even better for women in Singapore. And I submit to you that if the workplace works for women, it will more than likely work better for men too. Let me share a case in point. I remember back in the 90s when IBM Singapore was designing policies that will attract and retain women in IBM. One of the policies was to enable women to go on leave of absence and return to work after the time out, where they either have to go as a training spouse to their husbands who went overseas on assignment, or when they have to care for their elderly parents, or when their son or daughter is in PSLE year. While this policy was designed with the women's needs in mind, the first beneficiary was a male colleague. So there you have it. You do it right for women, the men will benefit. One would ask, why the focus on attracting and retaining women in the workforce? There is a strong business imperative underpinning this, as women form a rich talent pool critical to elevating skill shortage and boosting organizational diversity. As we say in the corporate world, it is a race for talent. Mr. Speaker, I will discuss the following in my speech, which I believe are key factors that will contribute to making the workplace work better for women. These are flexible work arrangements, managing workplace bullying and discrimination, addressing the Great Resignation, advancing women in leadership, and balance between family and career. First up, flexible work arrangements. Employers need to recognize that female employees are generally the primary caregivers and face challenges in managing work and personal responsibilities. Flexible work arrangements, or FWA, can better support their women employees to manage both aspects. The Singapore National Employers Federation strongly encourages employers to implement FWAs regardless of gender, achieve work-life harmony. SBF has recommended in the report that businesses start by adopting TAFEP's tripartite standards for work-life harmony, flexible work arrangements, and unpaid leave for unforeseen caregiving needs. Before COVID, I think flexible work arrangements will be a little bit of a difficult thing for employers to hear, but COVID has resulted in work from home becoming the norm. However, the work from home during COVID model is not necessarily the best practice. The design principles of flexible work arrangements should address the workplace flexibility that is needed, especially by the women, and at the same time ensure that the workplace will facilitate an innovative, productive, and inclusive work culture that builds strong teamwork and shared purpose. MNCs and LLEs like Shell, DBS, and IBM have best practice policies that support FWA. Companies can learn from each other's experiences and apply in their own situation. I will share a few. Patrine Pua shares with me that at Shell, they encourage flexibility in how, where, and when employees work. In addition, employees are also encouraged to step outside of purely work boundaries to participate in other areas of interest, such as social responsibility projects and employee interest groups, for example, time off for sporting or volunteering. Now, at Shell, there is also a general perception that a career in the energy sector is not suited for women. Or shall we say, Shell recognizes that there is such a perception. So at Shell, they provide their female employees with training to overcome bias that they may face in their largely male-dominated industry. And today, they have many stories of how women colleagues at Shell break the bias. And in Shell Singapore, 39% of their senior leaders based in Singapore are female, and 37% of middle management positions are held by females. DBS Bank believes that flexible work arrangement is a key element to attract the best people to the bank. Yen Hong of DBS shares with me that they provide a range of FWA, which includes flex hours, flex place, and 100% work from home for 6 months for new parents with young children or those with caregiving responsibilities at home. DBS also launched a job-sharing program where one role can be shared by 2 employees, giving their employees time to manage family responsibilities. Now, the bank recognizes that FWA requires change management for managers and has launched a new manager learning module to support managers to more effectively manage and lead teams in remote or hybrid work settings. DBS diversity metrics is also very encouraging, with women representing 49% of workforce, 40% of SVPs, 29% of senior leadership, and 20% on their board. FWA is not just for the large companies. Singapore SME, Absolute Kinetics Consultancy, gives their employees additional leave to support their child's first day of school, enhanced paid childcare leave of 2 days on top of MOM's stipulated childcare leave, as well as elder care leave. AKC also allowed their staff to leave work a few hours earlier once a month to spend time with loved ones. AKC conducts cross-training for staff from different departments so that they can cover for one another, and this also builds stronger teamwork and fraternity amongst the employees. Now, SMEs may be concerned with their limited capacity to implement good policies and processes for flexi work arrangement. SMEs can tap on government funding, and SHRI, the Singapore Human Resource Institute, SBF, and TACs can all support the SMEs in their journey. Now, the largest employer, I think one of the largest, is the public sector, and they can play a key role in setting best practices for flexi work arrangement. KK Women's and Children's Hospital provides on-site childcare center with special rates for employees. They have policies for flexible work arrangements, which includes compressed work week, flexi time, and part-time work to suit their staff's needs. Of course, KKH will have lactation rooms for nursing moms, but they also organize family events such as Eat with Your Family Day. I am a personal beneficiary of flexi work arrangements. IBM implemented many of these policies as far back as the 1990s, and I treasure the fact that I did not have to miss most of my children's significant moments. I was empowered to be fully mum and fully IBMer, knowing that appraisal and promotion is based on personal commitment to results and outcomes and not on time clocked in the office. Because the company was supportive of my personal goals of being a working mom, I probably worked triply hard. And I'm quite sure all my fellow female IBMers at all levels can say the same. Second point, managing workplace bullying and discrimination. Now, fair practice in the workplace and zero tolerance of workplace discrimination is an imperative for a productive and trusting workplace culture. The issues of unconscious bias and unintentional discrimination are often more acute for women. We've heard some of them in this chamber today. I'll give you another few. Managers being unconsciously biased against their pregnant women employees for particular assignments or jobs. Or, I'm sure you've heard of this one, managers expressing distress that their female staff is going to be away for 4 months maternity leave, and so on and so forth. Now, line managers need to be trained to raise awareness of inclusive behaviors, set expectations on consequences, and create a culture that enables staff to feel safe to speak up. Companies should have whistleblowing process so that victims can safely speak up and have their grievances heard. SHRI, or Singapore Human Resource Institute, shares with me that they have a one-stop HR shared services center that provides HR solutioning for grievance handling, employee engagement, background screening services, and compliance audits. And earlier on, we heard Honourable Member Seah Kiam Ping share with us that NTUC has the same. So SMEs can turn to SHRI or NTUC for support. The government intends to write into law unacceptable practices. Hopefully, this big stick will be used as a last resort only, and that our companies in Singapore, both the employers and the employees, will be able to work together to create a productive and respectful workplace culture with the increased awareness and training on managing bias and fair workplace practices. Next, addressing the Great Resignation, making the workplace work for our next generation. Now, most managers and leaders who are now in decision-making positions grew up in a different era than our millennials and Gen Z women and men who have joined the workforce in recent years. To address the Great Resignation, leaders need to understand what is important to the next gen. Firstly, our next gen look for positive workplace culture, where there is respect for each other up and down and sideways, open and honest communication that is supportive and nurturing, respect boundaries of time for work and time for family, for friends and self-care. WhatsApp and email without limits and consideration is a big no-no. Secondly, the next gen looks to an employer who cares for them as a person and not just as a serial number, who is mindful of their mental health and well-being, and who provides them with skills and career development with equal opportunity and access to jobs, roles, and promotion. Thirdly, for them, their desire is for work to be purposeful. That is, that there is meaning to the work and they can see the impact to clients, to the community and society, to country, to environment, to humanity, and they can see how their work aligns to the company's vision, mission, and purpose. And finally, of course, they expect salary and benefits like leave, medical, flexible work arrangements to be fair, progressive, and competitive with the industry. The next gen are prepared to work hard, but just not all of the time. They want to live their lives to the fullest. Our next gen can teach us many things, just as our senior workers can offer their wisdom and experience. Employers need to design their workplace and workplace culture to work better for next gen workforce if they want to succeed in the race for talent. The next gen are more prepared than us to vote with their feet. My fourth topic, advancing women in senior leadership and board representation. Many women have been given opportunities to contribute and excel, rising up to a third of the senior management positions in the workplace. We have made improvements on the boards of top 100 SGX listed companies, from 7.5% of women directors in 2013 to close to 20%, 19.7% on January the 1st, 2022. Statutory boards have also heeded the call for more balanced gender representation on boards and made great progress, improving from 23% in 2018 to 30% by the end of 2021. Top 100 IPCs have also close to 30% of their board members represented by women. Internationally, however, Singapore's 20% lacks the average women on board percentage of developed markets at 25.8%. Now, board diversity is a business imperative for organizations' sustainability and resilience. Women on boards is only but one aspect of diversity, but a very visible one. Investors and employees are increasingly looking to putting their money with companies that show up on the radar of diversity, inclusion, and sustainability. The ecosystem is asking for change and accountability. Take, for example, BlackRock and State Street Global Advisors expect their portfolio companies in Singapore to have at least one woman director and may vote against the re-election of directors deemed responsible for the lack of female participation on boards starting from the 2022 proxy season. Now, while there are some people questioning whether there is an adequate pool of board-ready female candidates in Singapore, Mr. Simon Israel, the board chair of SingPost and previously Singtel, once said, and I quote, "If you're prepared to have a much wider profile of what could bring diversity to the board, the gene pool is much bigger than boards probably think it is." Close quote. Council for Board Diversity, Singapore Institute of Directors, and executive search firms are all ready to support board chairs to field credible and talented women on their nomination slates for serious consideration and selection. I should declare I am a member of the Council for Board Diversity. Now, it is encouraging to see progressive companies make concerted efforts to harness the benefits of having more women on their boards. Take Venture Corporation Limited, SATS Limited, Singapore Post Limited, Far East Hospitality Trust, and most recently, Thomson Medical, for example. These boards had 0 women in 2013 on their boards, but each have at least 30% women on their boards today. They are blazing the trail for others to follow. In Singapore, we do not recommend quotas for women on boards as it can lead to tokenism. And others have said, I think Singapore women, we can do it. We are not for charity. We don't need charity. We are hopeful that with the momentum built and with the 9-year cap on independent directors rule change that has kicked in on January 1st, we should get to 25% by 2025 and 30% by 2030. Singapore's President, Madam Halimah Yacob, recently said, and I quote, "The pandemic has highlighted the importance of diversity in leadership. Organizations with few or no women directors should cast the net wide for best talents and experience to contribute to their boards and position their organizations well for long-term success." And on to my final point, balance between family and career. I would like to share my personal reflection on the balance between family and career and the dignity of being a working mum. Long ago, I once thought that I had to choose between family or career, and even told my boss, who is a man back then, "You don't have to promote me, I am getting married." Thankfully, I had an enlightened boss who ignored my declaration and went on to give me my first management role while I was on honeymoon. And the rest is history. I have 4 daughters after that. And they tell me the joke is, each time I have a child, I got promoted. So they ask me whether the factory will keep going. Okay, sorry, sir. And thankfully, my workplace was a workplace that works for women like me and my colleagues at all levels to have pretty fulfilling careers while bringing up our families too. I must say at this point, I'm grateful that I have a supportive husband who definitely broke all norms in that time, decided to quit his job and be the trailing spouse when I was offered international assignment overseas, and have since been the Mr. Mum for our family. he broke record because when we were in Japan, the Parents Association was called Mothers Association.
You may have 4 children, but you have 30 seconds left.
Okay. All right. Sorry, sir. No, all through my journey, there are many moments when I had to stop in partnership with my spouse to discern, decide the choices and the steps to take to move forward. I understand that many young women today are troubled by whether they should focus on their career or plan to start a family. And non-therapeutic preservation of human eggs appears to be the solution to their troubles, offering women the freedom to opt for work and delay settling down and defer starting a family. After many years of debate on this issue, the government has indicated an intended legislation to provide women aged 21 to 35 years, regardless of marital status, to preserve their eggs, and that only legally married couples can use their frozen eggs for procreation. What does this mean for women? Will this put our women in a difficult position to have to choose to abdicate authentic womanhood and motherhood to technology because technology makes it possible for non-therapeutic egg freezing? What does this mean for the workplace? How will the workplace respond? Will the workplace consider women who choose not to postpone childbearing with the freezing of their eggs as not being sufficiently committed to their career, thus harming their progress? What does this mean for society? The cost of freezing and storing of human eggs is not insignificant, and one needs to add to it the cost of IVF treatment.
Ms. Ang, if you can wrap up,
Will
please.
this lead to inevitable widening of the inequality? I worry that maternity will soon run the risk of being a commodity. So the time to act is now for our tripartite partners to urgently make the workplace work better for our women, especially the next generation, so that they can be supported to have fulfilling careers and have a life and a family as naturally as possible. Mr. Speaker, I stand in support for the motion and celebrate the white paper coming to fruition. Thank you.